السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. قال الله تعالى في الكتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال: يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وهدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, the world is so polarized right now. We see so much evil. We are exposed to so much evil. And we are literally made a witness to the evil that we're seeing on a daily basis. And with the advancement in technology and the accessibility of social media, we are witnessing, corruption. We are witnessing murder. We are witnessing poverty and injustice and oppression at a rate that we've never seen before. And unfortunately, we are made a witness sometimes where we have a decision and a choice to make. And I say that because it is a choice and it is a decision, because what we do after we become a witness is entirely up to us. And it's so easy and so practical to say, I won't get involved. I'm not political. I'm not a political person. I mind my own business. And especially as a Muslim, it's very easy to pick sides, right? And it's very easy to say that's a Muslim issue versus a non-Muslim issue. And we can hide behind that shield almost very easily. When the election was happening, there was a lot of people echoing this rhetoric. They're both bad people. I don't want to vote. I'm not going to vote either. But we live in a country where the laws are, mandated and written and dictated by the people that you're voting for. Whether you want to endorse a candidate or not, you're going to be subjected to the laws that come from the administration. So it's not really a choice. It's really being wise to see how our actions are going to have a longer lasting impact down the road. And when we say that we're going to be apathetic, we're not going to make a decision, we're not going to stand by something, be it, a moral issue, a political issue or whatnot, we kind of stray away from the Sunnah. And allow me to explain. Because that is not the essence of a believer, not to do something when he has become a witness something that is wrong. That is not how the Prophet ﷺ or his companions lived their lives. In these times of widespread immorality, lies, Muslims, we have to return back to our moral compass. And our moral compass is the Quran and the Sunnah. Everything that we understand about, civilization, about humanity, about how this world functions is through the lens of the Quran, through the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's what the Sunnah teaches us. There was a time when Muslims were the authority on earth, and not just in terms of the spread of religion, but in terms of science, medicine, math, arts, culture, and most importantly, honesty and trust. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that comes to mind. عن أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: من رأى منكم منكر فليغير بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. And this is a hadith that we've heard over and over growing up as a child, as even an adult. And it says, whoever of you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. And if he is not able to do so, then let him change it with his tongue. And if he's not able to do so, then with his heart. And that is the weakest of faith. And essentially, this hadith is so beautiful because it's so conclusive of every individual in the ummah, every person. because everyone has a different level of comfort, everyone has a different level of courage, everyone has a different level of reach and authority and influence. And this hadith essentially categorizes us when we are made witness to the vast, evil and oppression and immorality that we see. Because so many times we see things and we say, I can't say anything, I can't do anything. And by doing that repetitively over and over again, what happens is that we become so numb and apathetic that now the fact that something is bad or something is evil and that's happening, we become completely like dead, becoming desensitized to it. And that's where the last part of this hadith is so beautiful because having just even the acknowledgement that what's happening around you or what's happening to other people is wrong allows you to still maintain a level or an amount of faith within you. And to make this practical, nowadays we all have a voice, whether we believe that or admit it or not, right? Through social media, just through your WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and even like TikTok now, because these are platforms that are used as a vocal channel. When we see something, when we see oppression towards those that are incapable of defending themselves, or those that are actively being oppressed, and a very real example is the Uyghurs in China, right? And that's a global oppression that is happening. We are capable of being vocal in that regards. When we see, Muslims and even non-Muslims alike, when we're seeing this political and social unrest in our country, and we say that it's not a Muslim issue, but it is a human issue, and we choose to remain silent when we know something's going wrong. That is the type of silence that I'm talking about, because we have the capacity to say something, and people are so quick to share misinformation, especially now, and to make it even more relevant, about vaccines. People that are unqualified to speak are speaking. When it comes to religion, you'll see these fake hadith and you'll see these fake stories being passed through WhatsApp, right? Like if you dip, this pen in water 7 times and then write on your hand, you're going to have a child next year. And you're like, what? Like, where did you get that? If you drink coconut water that had been sitting out in the sun for 30 days and you rub it all over your body, you're never going to get joint pain. I heard that in something. And so we're so easy and it's so convenient for us to pass information, but when it comes time for us to actually be an advocate for change, to have a voice, we start to pick a side and say, well, I don't want to get involved. And the point that I'm trying to say is that this is one of those instances, and you can make this even more relevant. For example, like if you're at work and you're in a position of management, and this can apply to being in a masjid board or being on a shura, and you are in a position where you are able to correct something that is wrong when you see it, then you have an obligation to speak up against it, right? Because you are a witness to this evil. And so you should actively go and stop it. For people that are younger, and it even applies when we're older, when we see bullying happen, when people are being subjected to ill and crude and rude and behavior and treatment, if we're actively able to stop that with our hands, then we are commanded to do so. And that's what it means. Like if you're seeing evil and you have the capacity to stop it with your hands, do that. But if you're not able to do that, well, there's another level for you, right? Then you are able to, and you should voice that concern. You should voice the fact that this is wrong and it should not happen. And that's where like the social media and the accessibility of technology really comes into play, because all it takes is one share, right? One survey, one signing of this petition. And we now have a movement, and we've seen this across the world happening like everywhere, because all it takes is one person to say this is wrong and I'm going to stand up against it. So if we really wanted to unite, we have the capacity to do so. But let's say we can't even do that because we don't have access to technology, or we live in a oppressive regime where we can't even voice it with our tongue. Then the hadith says to acknowledge that whatever you are witnessing or you are made to witness, you acknowledge in your heart that that is wrong. Like if you can't stop it with your hands, right? You can't stop it with your tongue. You can't even voice your concern against it. Then acknowledge that in your heart, what you are witnessing is wrong. And that is the lowest level of faith. So being apathetic and being complacent, it's not from the believers. It's not from the Sunnah. It's not from what the companions of the Prophet ﷺ did, because they were actively making change. And we have some beautiful examples, right, from our predecessors. We see when Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he became a Khalifa, right, he would actively patrol the streets at night, right, to see who was hungry and to see which of his constituents did not have their rights fulfilled, right? And he was unable to sleep at night knowing, because these are people that he's concerned for. Imagine if he was like the politicians that we see today, arguing and bickering over, if whether people should get a $600 stimulus check or an $800 stimulus check. It's been a full year. People have lost jobs. They need help. Imagine if the Muslim leaders, our predecessors, fought on how they should help people when a global pandemic has hit. Is having that concern, having that love, having that, emotional attachments to people as if they were your own family. Umar ibn al-Khattab would literally revoke food. He would take away food from his own family members when he found out that people in his ummah, in his community that he's responsible for, did not have access to the luxurious lifestyle that he would be afforded because he's a Khalifa. And he would reprimand his own family members as, how can you enjoy this food? How can you enjoy this drink when people that I'm responsible for have not had their rights fulfilled? And that is one simple example. When it comes to being in a position where you are the authoritative figure, where you are the person in charge of, laying the laws, Umar ibn Khattab was someone that practiced what he, Khalid bin Walid was the, reigning commander under him. And he removed him from power despite all of the success and despite all of the victories that he brought. Why? Because he did not want people to think that it was because of Khalid, right? That all of this victory and all the success was coming. It was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that was happening. And he was in a position to do that, because otherwise the wrong impression would have been made, right? A cult-like personality, a cult-like following would have formed around Khalid bin Walid. And so to do the right thing, despite the fact that it was bringing forth some positivity and giving he removed him from his position. And there's a verse in the Quran that's so beautiful. It says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله ولو آمن أهل الكتاب لكان خيرا لهم منهم المؤمنون وأكثرهم الفاسقون. He says, you are the best community ever raised for humanity. Like, what a powerful statement made by God, made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling the believers that you are you are the best community there ever was in all of humanity. And that should let you know that, right, with great power comes great responsibility. So with this great claim, there's a responsibility that falls on our shoulders if we are the best ever in humanity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues on by saying, you encourage good. What is encouraging good? You call people towards good. You call people towards Tawheed. You call people towards Islam. You call people towards the remembrance of Allah and the pleasure of Allah. You forbid evil. And this is where this hadith ties exactly with this verse, is that you are actively forbidding evil, even if it be against your own self, even if it be against your own family members, right? Even if it be against your own friends. And that's where, if you see it, you stop it. If you can't stop it, you speak against it. If you can't speak against it, well, at least acknowledge the evil that is happening to fall into this category. And you believe in Allah. You encourage good, you forbid evil, and you believe in Allah. And had the people of the book believed, it would have been better for them. Some of them are faithful, but most of them are rebellious. So this is like the trifecta that allows us to be the best of humanity. And it's quite simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a declaration that you are the best people, you are the chosen people. So now we naturally ask, why? Why are we the chosen ones? Why are we the best? Well, you are declared the best community because you do three things. You engage in good and you call others towards good. Even if it's uncomfortable for you, you fight forward. You forbid evil. And that right there, it's tough, because sometimes you're that evil. You're the person, engaging in those actions that may be harming others. So it calls one to account for themselves, but also to others. And you can't call others to account when you yourself haven't rectified your own immorality or your own sins and your own shortcomings. So it really is a very weighted statement by Allah. And then it concludes by saying that we believe in Allah. And believing in Allah is acting upon that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. And, you know, right now, as we continue on to 2021 and 2020 comes to a close, we're left to reflect on so many events that have happened, so many events that were out of our control, so many events that challenged our faith, so many events that made us sometimes question our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because all of us were tested, some more than others, and some their trials were more severe. Some people have lost family members, others have lost their jobs, others people have lost their homes. People are living in shelters. People are on food stamps. And right now is a time where we have to rise to the occasion. And ultimately, if we are someone that was not tested in this time period, and we have our homes, and while it's negative 10 degrees outside and we have the frigid cold, understand that there are blessings and then there are trials. And the fact that we have these blessings, the fact that you and I were able to go to bed last night when it's sub-zero temperatures, and there are people that have been evicted from their home in the same time period. It's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to recognize that blessing. The fact that we're able to hold our family members and spend time with them and pray with them, while other people were not even able to properly wash or bury their loved ones, is a blessing, but also a trial. And so as we reflect on just a simple hadith and we think about our actions going forward, you know, all of the oppression and all of the evil is just not going to go away. 2020 presented its own trials and its own tribulations. It really forced us to look deep within and see, you know, where do I fit in my community? Where do I fit in my society? Because every individual was kind of, you know, had to hear this call to heroic action. Whether it be if you're a medical professional in a hospital, whether you're a neighbor, a parent, a attendee of a masjid, someone came to you asking for help, directly or indirectly. Somebody was in trouble. And whether we were able to answer that call, or we heard the call but chose to ignore it because it didn't affect us directly, really says a lot about where our iman, where our faith is, where our priorities are, and where our concern for others who are less privileged and blessed in a different manner than us are. And so as we conclude this reminder, you are never in a situation where you have to be apathetic or complacent. We as believers are not from the people. We are not from an ummah. We are not from a community that says it doesn't affect me, so I don't have to worry about it. You know, Myanmar and Kashmir and Pakistan and Bangladesh and the Uyghurs and anywhere else where there's oppression, it doesn't really affect me. I'm comfortable. I have a job. My family's safe and secure. We pray 5 times a day. It's all good. No, that's just not from the believer. So if you ever find yourself, whether you're in a position, a higher position of management, if you're in a position of parenthood where you are able to stop an evil when you see it, do so, and do it with your hand and actively, disbar that evil. If you're in a position where you can speak up because Allah has given you that platform, and it's a very interesting thing, right? To have a platform in 2020, because if you have a social media account, you essentially have an open mic and an open platform. And that's an imanah from Allah. That is a trust that we have from Allah, what we say, what we do, what we show people. And so if we have that podium that Allah has given us and we see evil, we must speak against it, because being apathetic is simply not an option, right? Being disengaged is simply not an option. And if we're not able to do any of that, we're not able to stop it, we're not able to speak against it, we must, as believers in Allah and followers of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, acknowledge that what is happening is wrong. We must acknowledge that what is happening is wrong, and that is the lowest level of faith. And we know where we fall. We know what our capacities are, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what our capacities are and what our intentions are. So wherever you may be and whoever you are, it's a good opportunity to really reflect upon the power and authority that Allah has given us over the people that are around us. And that can mean our family members, that can mean our, the constituents in our communities, that can mean the people that we work with, the people that we go to school with. Each of us is going to be facing, oppression, is going to be witnessing oppression, is going to be witnessing evil. And what we do is solely upon us. And as you come face to face with these situations, remember these stories of the companions, because they went through, the same exact things that we're going through. And they all, had to ask themselves that, what do I do? This doesn't affect me directly, but what do I do? And so remember that and draw wisdom from that. And inshallah, you'll find yourself, adhering to the sunnah, and you'll find yourself aligned with people that are in the right. Is Jummah, so we serve as a reminder that we send peace and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ, and to read Surah Kahf today. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا. اللهم بلغنا فيما يرضيك أعمالنا. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجك. Jummah Mubarak to everyone. Have a safe time off from school. Please continue to social distance and follow your guidelines. Try to avoid these big gatherings, because DuPage County, as you know, was experiencing a very, very large amount of COVID positive cases. So please be wise and be smart and stay safe, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.